There is a power within you that never rests, a silent, ancient, creative force that operates day and night, waiting for one thing: your instruction. The sages called it the inner father, the mystics called it the presence, and Joseph Murphy revealed its true identity: the subconscious mind, the eternal factory of miracles. In this text, you will discover a secret that has transformed lives for centuries. Prayer is not a plea, it is a law that functions with the same precision as the rising of the sun, a law that responds to your faith, your mental image, your inner word, and that never fails when you learn how to use it correctly. Effective prayer is not repeating words or asking from a place of lack. To pray is to feel, visualize, believe from the fulfilled end. It is speaking to the creative power within you in its own language, the language of certainty. It is planting in your subconscious the exact seed of what you desire to manifest. And when that seed falls on fertile ground, the law begins to move, and the invisible becomes visible, and the improbable becomes natural, and what you call a miracle is simply the expression of an intelligence that has always been operating in your favor. This is a journey into inner mastery, a journey where you will stop begging and start creating, stop waiting and start manifesting. Stop looking outward and recognize that your true power has always been within. Prepare to discover how the mind that accomplishes the impossible prays. Prepare to open the doors to your factory of miracles. Prepare to enter the world where faith is the key, thought is the tool, and consciousness is the creator. Welcome to effective prayer. Welcome to the art of turning your life into a continuous miracle. Praying is not about repeating empty formulas or begging favors from a distant divinity. Praying is about sowing. Every thought you choose, every image you hold, every word you speak with intention is a seed planted in the fertile field of your subconscious mind. And just as a farmer does not doubt that a seed will sprout if the soil is good and the care is consistent, so too can you trust that every prayer, well-formed and sustained with faith, will bear fruit in its own time. This book reveals the science of prayer, the precise union between your conscious thought, the seed, and the creative power of the subconscious, the invisible soil where life germinates. Unlike mechanical recitation, often born of fear or desperation, scientific prayer is a focused mental direction, charged with positive emotion, supported by constructive imagery, and anchored in the silent faith that what is affirmed already exists in essence. The great sages, the prophets of all traditions, and truly successful people have practiced this form of prayer, even if they never called it by that name. Jesus did not ask, he affirmed. He did not plead, he decreed. When he said, "Thank you, Father, for hearing me," he was teaching the secret of giving thanks before seeing, trusting before touching, releasing the image with the knowledge that the mental law never fails. Intuitive scientists, inventors, spiritual leaders, and healers have understood that sustained thought directs energy, and energy creates conditions. Throughout these pages, you will find real testimonies from people who healed illnesses, overcame financial crises, restored broken relationships, and recovered lost peace, all through the conscious application of prayer as a mental law. This is not about religion. It is about a universal spiritual law, accessible to all, beyond creeds, doctrines, or labels. Read this book with an open mind and a willing heart. Practice from day one. Do not try to understand everything before you act. Apply a single affirmation consistently, and the results will speak for themselves. Remember, your mind is the field, your word is the seed, and your faith is the water. What you sow, you shall reap. The secret technique of effective prayer, based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy. We have noticed that more than 80% of visitors to our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. Prayer as a mental seed. When a farmer prepares to sow, he does not act hastily or in ignorance. He examines the soil, chooses the seed carefully, and above all, trusts in the silent law that will cause what has been placed in the darkness of the earth to germinate. This is exactly the relationship between your praying thought and the hidden power operating in the deep levels of your mind. The law that governs the invisible processes of the earth is the same that governs the invisible movements of the mind. In both cases, there is sowing, a period of hidden transformation, and an inevitable harvest. We call prayer the act of planting ideas in the subconscious, but not just any idea. It is an idea formulated with clarity, nourished with conviction, protected from fear, and released in the certainty that it will be answered. It is not uncommon for many to see prayer as a desperate cry to a distant power, an emotional plea attempting to persuade an external deity to change its will. But this childish concept is precisely what has caused so much frustration, disappointment, and loss of faith. Anyone who understands prayer in those terms ignores the law that governs manifestation, unaware that every external experience is a reflection of an internal mental state. Authentic prayer does not consist of asking for a favor, but of mentally shaping the desired outcome, holding it in consciousness, and delivering it to the inner power that responds without hesitation to what has been impressed upon it. In this first chapter, you must understand clearly that effective prayer does not seek to change God, but to change your own mind. For God, or the creative intelligence that sustains the universe, is immutable, perfect, and absolute. He does not react to pleas, is not moved by tears, nor negotiates with promises. He does not adapt to your wishes, but responds to your sustained thoughts as a field responds to a seed. And this is a key revelation. You are not in the world to beg for divine favor, but to cooperate with the divine order through your thoughts, words, and emotions. The power is within you, and you are the sower. In the Gospel according to Matthew, Jesus presents the parable of the sower, one of the deepest teachings of the mental law. A sower went out to sow. As he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and ate them. Some fell on rocky ground, where there was not much soil. They sprang up quickly, but when the sun rose, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew and choked them. But some seeds fell on good soil and produced a crop, 100, 60, and 30 times what was sown. This story, often interpreted religiously, actually contains a scientific lesson about the mind. Each type of soil represents a type of mind. The hardened path symbolizes the distracted mind that hears truths but does not retain them. The rocky ground represents the shallow mind that becomes enthusiastic for a moment but does not persevere. The thorns are worries and fears that choke the planted idea. Only the good soil, the focused, serene, and receptive mind allows prayer to bear fruit. If you understand this, you will understand why many pray without results. It is not that their prayer has gone unheard. It is that their mind was not prepared to receive the seed. Imagine someone who repeats an affirmation of health every night, but spends the day focused on symptoms, complaint after complaint, fear after fear. That person sows at night, but uproots the seed with their thoughts during the day. Or someone who visualizes prosperity but spends the day condemning money, wealth, work, or themselves. What can a divided mind harvest? The subconscious does not respond to your words, it responds to your conviction. It acts not on the phrases you speak aloud, but on what you feel and believe deeply. The fundamental formula for effective prayer is this: sustained thought plus faith equals manifestation. This is the mathematics of the mind. If you plant an idea of health, prosperity, harmony, or success, and sustain it with positive feeling, inner conviction, and continuity, sooner or later the subconscious will accept it and begin to produce its equivalents in your experience. But if you constantly change your idea, if your mind is like an erratic sower casting seeds to the wind, you will not see stable results. The law requires stability, persistence, and direction. Prayer must be specific, repeated without anxiety, and accompanied by an attitude of certainty. Let me tell you about a woman I met at one of my conferences in Los Angeles. She was 36 and had been trying to conceive for 10 years. She had tried every medical treatment, visited specialists in 3 countries, and undergone numerous tests, but the results were always the same: sterility. When she came to me, she was emotionally and financially exhausted. I asked if she was willing to abandon all complaint, all mental effort, and all compulsion to achieve pregnancy, and she said yes. I gave her a simple instruction. Each night before sleeping, she should visualize a cradle in her home, imagine herself rocking the child, feel its warmth, and silently give thanks for the gift of motherhood, as if she had already received it. She was not to speak about the issue, discuss it, or justify it. Only pray scientifically and trust. For 3 months she applied this technique without missing a night. She imagined, felt, and gave thanks. She fell asleep with the image of the baby in her arms and never again referred to her problem as my sterility. One day, while visiting me to express gratitude, I learned she was 7 weeks pregnant. This was not a mystical miracle or a biological exception. It was the fulfillment of the law. When mental contradiction ceased and a clear image was sown with faith, her body responded to the silent instruction of the mind. That is the law. You may now ask, what if I don't have enough faith? Faith is not a static feeling or a supernatural virtue. It is simply accepting as true what you do not yet see. It is holding an idea in your mind without allowing fear to erase it. You can pray with faith even if you feel doubt, if you decide not to give it power. You do not need spiritual euphoria for your prayer to work. You need mental direction and perseverance. As Jesus said, if you have faith as a mustard seed, small but genuine and steadfast, it is enough to move any obstacle. So if you wish to transform your life, begin today to pray scientifically. Formulate your desire in affirmative terms. Do not say, I want to stop being sick. Say, I am perfect health. Do not say, I wish to escape poverty. Say, I prosper in all my ways. Do not say, I want my child to change. Say, I give thanks for perfect harmony in my family. Here is your affirmation to begin. My thoughts are seeds, and today I plant peace, health, and prosperity. Repeat it slowly and consciously. Write it down. Go to sleep with it. The power lies in mental repetition without emotional contradiction. What you hold in your mind manifests in your world. In summary, prayer is not an emotional emergency, a religious ritual, or a petition to an external will. It is a precise mental operation, a conscious sowing of images, words, and emotions into the fertile soil of your subconscious. If you learn to pray this way, you will see that no situation is irreversible, no desire impossible, no obstacle permanent. The entire universe is designed to respond to a focused and convinced mind. You are the sower, your mind is the soil, prayer is the seed. The harvest is certain. You are ready to sow consciously, not in desperation. Continue to the next chapter, where you will learn how to formulate your desire with mental precision, so that the invisible power has a clear instruction to obey. Do not sow at random. Sow with understanding. The law is ready to serve you. Chapter 2. How to formulate your desire with scientific precision. Everything you fervently desire originates from a legitimate impulse for growth. No elevated longing arises from whim or selfishness. It comes from the divine impulse that drives you to expand, to be more, and to fulfill your purpose more fully. However, it is common for human beings to formulate their desires with a mixture of anxiety, confusion, and hesitation. One desires health but fears illness. One longs for prosperity but believes in scarcity. One asks for love but distrusts others. This inner contradiction prevents the subconscious mind, the instrument of realization, from acting with precision. The inner power requires clear instructions. Just as an architect cannot build a structure without defined plans, your subconscious cannot manifest results unless you provide it with a clear, unified mental image. When Jesus said, "Ask and it will be given to you," Matthew 7:7, he was not referring to an uncertain plea or a repeated, aimless request. He was referring to a mental command issued with conviction. The verb ask in this context implies an internal action, establishing in your mind what you desire as if it already exists. It is not about requesting something you do not have. It is about accepting in consciousness what is already yours on the invisible plane. This is the first principle you must understand. In scientific prayer, you do not ask with doubt. You formulate with precision. You do not repeat with desperation. You establish with clarity. The subconscious does not respond to emotional noise or empty words. It responds to the image held with feeling and certainty. Here lies the primary cause of so many failures in using the mind. The desire is not clearly formulated. People oscillate between multiple goals, doubt themselves, shift focus constantly, speak of what they want while visualizing the opposite, and then complain that their prayer does not work. But the mental law demands direction. You cannot aim in two directions at once. If you desire something, you must choose it mentally, as if it were the only thing, at least while you are formulating it. Your subconscious is not a multitasking servant. It needs a defined message. Choose one thing at a time. Even if you have many desires, select the most important at this moment and focus on it with all your mental energy. The power of realization is not distributed among scattered desires. It is activated when you concentrate your attention on a single goal with total clarity. Consider this. If a patient desires to heal from an illness, they cannot simultaneously feed thoughts of hopelessness. If someone desires a new job, they should not spend mental energy revisiting current frustrations. If a young person desires a scholarship, they cannot repeat phrases of lack while visualizing obstacles. It is essential to formulate the desire affirmatively, visually, and with emotional coherence. For example, do not say, "I want to stop being sick." Say, "My body radiates perfect health." Do not say, "I want this poverty to end." Say, "I enjoy abundance in all my ways." Remove "I want" and replace it with "I already have." This change is not just semantic. It is a direct reprogramming of your subconscious. The desire should not be expressed as absence, but as assumed presence. One of the most effective tools to fix this image with precision is what I call the prayer paper technique. Write your desire clearly on a piece of paper in the present tense, using simple, affirmative words charged with conviction. Do not write an essay or an emotional narrative. Draft a clear affirmation, such as, "I am grateful because I already enjoy my ideal job where I am valued, well compensated, and fully thriving." Or, "I give thanks because my body is full of vitality, energy, and balance." This paper should not be shown to anyone and should be read as one would recite a focused spell. Keep it near your bed, and each night before sleeping, read it mentally with serenity, closing your eyes and visualizing the desired state, as if it were a real scene you are living. This technique is effective because it uses two key moments: the clear formulation of the desire in writing and the receptive state of the subconscious just before sleep. At that moment, when the conscious mind drifts into rest, the deep mind becomes more exposed, more suggestible, more malleable. The mental seed planted then begins to take root without resistance. Therefore, each night you must repeat this affirmation. "It is already mine, thank you, Father." You need nothing more. You do not need to argue, explain, or justify. You only need to mentally establish that your prayer has been received and give thanks as one who has already received the good. This is the attitude of one who understands the law. Also understand that the defined mental image is not fantasy, imaginative play, or a dream without substance. It is a blueprint, an inner design that will be materialized by the intelligent energy of the subconscious. Just as a sculptor visualizes the finished statue before chiseling the marble, you must see, hear, and feel internally the desired reality before the external world reflects it. The image must be detailed, concrete, and emotionally lived. If you desire a home, visualize it room by room. If you desire health, feel energy, lightness, and enthusiasm. If you desire reconciliation, imagine gestures, words, and encounters. Your subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly experienced internally. It accepts as true what you accept as true in feeling. Years ago, a young man who wished to emigrate came to ask my advice. He was blocked by paperwork, money, and fear. I told him to abandon all discussion of obstacles and focus on his goal. I instructed him to write the following on a piece of paper. "Thank you because I already live in the country I desire, working joyfully and prospering every day." I asked him to read it each night and visualize streets, language, climate, and work. After 5 weeks of consistent practice, without telling anyone what he was doing, he received an unexpected call. A company in that country had found his profile in an old database and offered him a job with a visa included. This miracle was the result of a clear mental image, sustained with faith and without contradiction. Do not fear that your desire is too great. The subconscious has no measure or limits. It is not bound by human laws. It obeys the divine law, the law of absolute good. You are not required to calculate how what you ask will be fulfilled. Your only task is to formulate with precision, feel with faith, and give thanks with certainty. The rest will be done by the power working in the invisible. Your desire, if constructive, harmless, and consistently sustained, will be realized. How it occurs is not your concern. The law will find the means. Just as a farmer does not need to understand the cellular process of wheat to see the harvest, you do not need to understand the invisible paths of manifestation. You only need to sow with clarity and wait with gratitude. So today, choose a single desire. Write it, affirm it, visualize it, go to sleep with it, repeat it without anxiety, and whenever your mind wants to scatter, return to the single thought. This is your nightly affirmation to be repeated as a formula of power. It is already mine, thank you, Father. Do not argue with the opposing thought. Do not enter into mental dialogue with doubt. Your faith does not need defense. It only needs perseverance. In the next chapter, you will learn how to turn this affirmation into a constant stream of energy flowing into your subconscious without resistance. Study this teaching as one would tune a musical instrument. Your mind is the organ of creation. Do not use it in noise or chaos. Use scientific precision, for in clarity lies power. Chapter 3. The Power of Affirmative Prayer. Before continuing, it is necessary to establish a principle that may seem elementary, but constitutes the cornerstone of the most effective spiritual method ever discovered by man. Every affirmation you hold in your thought is a mental command acting upon the creative substance of your subconscious. This affirmation, if clear, consistent, and emotionally charged, becomes the invisible matrix of everything you will experience externally. Every visible form is nothing more than a condensed expression of a previously affirmed mental pattern. An affirmation is not a rhetorical device, nor a self-help gimmick, nor a phrase to motivate yourself in the morning. An affirmation is a decree. It is a word that carries within it the vibratory seed of what it produces. In scientific terms, it is a mental formula designed to impress with force the creative reservoir of your deep mind. And everything impressed upon the subconscious is expressed. Affirmation does not act by the volume of its pronunciation or the number of times it is repeated, but by the intensity of conviction with which it is held, by the emotional tone accompanying it, and by the clarity of the image supporting it. Affirm with faith and your subconscious will accept it as law. Affirm with doubt, and you will sow confusion. Many have misunderstood affirmation, believing it consists of endlessly repeating positive phrases, as if the mere number of repetitions had power in itself. But this is verbal superstition. The subconscious does not respond to quantity but to quality. An affirmation spoken once, with deep faith, emotional clarity, and inner conviction, has more power than 1,000 mechanically recited phrases. The power of affirmative prayer lies not in the word itself, but in the mental acceptance of that word as truth. Do not say, "I am healthy," while your mind is fixed on your symptoms. Do not say, "I prosper in everything," while simultaneously worrying about paying bills. First, achieve mental silence and tranquility, then affirm as one who has already received. To better understand this law, let us interpret one of the oldest and most powerful texts of the Bible from the perspective of affirmation. Psalm 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." If repeated without understanding, this phrase is merely poetry, but if affirmed as inner truth, it awakens a force that nothing can stop. It is not said, "The Lord will be my shepherd if I behave well, and perhaps I will lack nothing if all goes well." It is affirmed in present certainty. What is affirmed with present certainty, the subconscious records as reality. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. This is not a request for comfort, but an affirmation of direction, rest, and perfect provision. The psalmist does not wait. He declares. He does not plead. He affirms. That is the key. To construct prayers that truly impress the subconscious, 3 conditions must be met: clarity in content, simplicity in structure, and emotional charge in tone. The affirmation must be affirmative, never negative, present, never future, focused, never diffuse. Do not say, "I am not sick." The subconscious does not process negation. It captures, "I am sick." Nor say, "I will be healthy someday," for this delays the good. Declare, "My body is perfect health right now." This affirmation is clear, direct, and establishes the image as current reality. Similarly for money, do not say, "I hope to get out of this debt someday." That affirmation reinforces debt. Declare, I give thanks because every day I receive more than enough of what I need. Wealth flows to me freely. For relationships, do not say, I hope my partner will understand me someday. Say, I give thanks for perfect love, mutual understanding, and harmony in my relationship. You are planting an idea that your subconscious will take as a mental construction instruction. The seed does not know if it is small or large, easy or difficult. It only knows how to grow. Let me share the case of a man who came to see me in New York, suffering from asthma that had plagued him for 15 years. He had tried medical treatments, physical therapies, and alternative remedies, all with temporary results. I asked if he was willing to change his internal self-image, and he said yes. I gave him a single affirmation to repeat each morning. Upon waking, I breathe easily. Air flows freely into my lungs. God within me is my perfect breath. I instructed him to say it quietly 3 times with full concentration, visualizing himself breathing normally. At first, he felt no change, but he continued affirming without doubt. I asked him not to speak of the asthma, not to discuss it with anyone, and not to reinforce it with words. 3 weeks later, he returned. He had slept without difficulty for several consecutive nights. He continued the practice, and after 2 months, the asthma disappeared completely, and most importantly, it never returned. What happened? His subconscious had accepted the new image impressed by constant, emotionally alive affirmation. His nervous system, respiratory system, and mental habits aligned with the new idea. Affirmative prayer transforms the content of your subconscious mind, and therefore transforms your life. The content of your subconscious mind is the invisible cause of everything you experience. Change that cause and you will change the effect. This is not superficial wishful thinking. You are not repeating things you want to believe, you are establishing new internal laws. When your word is sustained by faith, it becomes a law for your mind. Never forget this. Here are some affirmative formulas to begin your training. Read them with serenity, feel them as real, and use them with purpose. My body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Every cell vibrates with perfect health. I give thanks because my life is filled with abundance. My needs are met perfectly and harmoniously. My relationships are full of understanding, respect, and true love. I give and receive affection easily. Each day I grow in wisdom, peace, and inner power. I am guided by divine intelligence at all times. Always remember, do not affirm from need, affirm from mental possession. You do not need to feel uncontrolled enthusiasm, but you do need deep calm, a serene certainty. That certainty is what we call faith. The emotional tone of faith is not agitation, but established peace. It is the feeling of knowing that what you have affirmed already exists on the invisible plane and will manifest in due time. Make affirmation a conscious habit, not as a charm, but as a tool of creation. Your mind, used scientifically, is the most powerful instrument you have. Do not resign yourself to inherited thoughts, cultural diagnoses, or the repetitions of others. You can choose what to affirm, and what you affirm with faith will manifest. In the next chapter, you will learn how to take these affirmations into the receptive state of sleep, where the subconscious becomes most fertile. When you affirm correctly before sleep, your dreams will begin to construct your new reality from the depths. Persevere. There is no true affirmation that is not obeyed by the law. Chapter 4. The Technique of Sleep. Sowing while you sleep. There is a precise moment each day when your mind enters a state of exceptional receptivity. It is a silent threshold between wakefulness and sleep, a subtle instant in which conscious thought weakens and the subconscious opens like fertile soil, ready to receive any mental seed you wish to plant with intelligence and faith. This moment, just before sleep, is the most powerful of the day for anyone who wishes to transform their life through the power of the mind. Many, unknowingly, waste this potent window, bringing to bed their worries, the failures of the day and fears about tomorrow. They fall asleep reviewing bills to pay, family disputes, bodily ailments, or perceived offenses. Unaware, they are planting these images in the reservoir of their subconscious, and then are surprised when the same misfortunes reproduce themselves in daily life. They do not understand that the subconscious neither judges nor filters. It simply records what it receives in an emotional state. And when you are about to sleep, your emotion is vulnerable, your conscious mind is weakened, and whatever you think at that moment becomes a command. The psalmist understood this deeply when he wrote, He gives to his beloved while they sleep. Psalm 127:2. This phrase is not poetic metaphor, it is an affirmation of spiritual law. What is truly given during sleep is not an external gift, but the internal fulfillment of a mental image planted with intention. What you have visualized and affirmed before sleeping is harvested upon waking in the form of new ideas, unexpected encounters, progressive healings, or situations that may appear coincidental, but they are not. They are precise responses of your mind to what you planted in its fertile field. So how can you use this knowledge with scientific precision? Through what I call the mental movie technique, an extremely simple yet profoundly effective method. It consists of constructing a mental scene that represents the desired outcome, as if it has already been achieved. It is not about imagining the process, but the final scene. Just as a movie projects the climax that moves the audience, you must project your success mentally with such clarity that your mind experiences it as present reality. The mental movie begins with relaxation. Before sleep, lying comfortably in bed with the lights dimmed, close your eyes and bring your attention inward. Breathe deeply 3 times, releasing all tension. Then choose a brief, concrete scene that represents your fulfilled desire. If you desire health, visualize someone saying, "You look so well. I notice your vitality." If you desire a job, imagine signing the contract and shaking the director's hand. If you desire family harmony, hear laughter at dinner or feel embraces in the living room. You do not need a long movie, just a single emotionally charged image, repeated consistently. The most important thing is not to observe the scene as a spectator, but to live it in the first person. If someone is congratulating you, imagine their voice speaking directly to you, not to another. If you walk through your dream home, feel the floor beneath your feet, touch the walls, hear your footsteps. The more sensory and emotional the image, the more deeply it will penetrate the subconscious. Do not attempt to control every detail or seek aesthetic perfection. What matters is the feeling of certainty. If you feel that what you see is already real, you have planted well. Let me illustrate with a real case. A mother, distressed by her teenage son's erratic behavior, verbal violence, school absences, and poor company, came to me convinced she had exhausted all resources. She had spoken, scolded, punished, and even restricted him. Nothing worked. I told her to stop speaking to her son and start speaking to her subconscious. I taught her the mental movie technique. Each night before sleep, she was to imagine a scene. Her embracing her son, him saying, "Thank you for trusting me. I am changing, Mom." I asked her to live it as real, feel her emotions without alteration, and not discuss it with anyone. For 3 weeks she did this faithfully. No visible changes occurred. In the 4th week, her son asked for help finding a night course. He began having dinner at home again. Within 2 months, his behavior changed completely. Miracle, no. It was the power of the subconscious responding to an emotionally sustained image during the most receptive state, the threshold of sleep. The mother did not change her son with words, she changed him through vibration. She altered the internal movie, and the external actor responded to the new script. This testimony is not the exception, it is the rule of the mind. What you sustain within yourself consistently manifests without fail, but discipline is required. Do not expect results overnight. The subconscious, though powerful, responds to repetition. Just as the earth needs time to turn a seed into fruit, the mind needs a constant image to build a new experience. One night of mental movie is not enough. Practice for 30 nights. If you forget one night, do not chastise yourself. Resume with faith. The Lord does not punish, but it requires consistency. Here is a step-by-step nightly procedure. Prepare your mind. Before going to bed, avoid negative news or stressful conversations. Feed your mind with positive ideas, inspiring reading, or soft music. Relax. Lie comfortably in bed, close your eyes, and breathe deeply 3 times, releasing all muscular and mental tension. Choose a scene. Select a single mental scene representing your fulfilled desire. Do not choose processes or multiple desires. One clear, brief image. Experience it fully. Reproduce that scene in your mind as if happening now. Feel the emotion of success, joy, and gratitude. Participate. Do not observe. Sustain the image. Maintain it for 1 to 2 minutes. Repeat if distracted. Do not fight interfering thoughts. Simply return to the chosen scene. Enter sleep. As sleep arrives, surrender to it with this living image. Do not pray or reason, just sleep with the vision. Upon waking, do not analyze or seek immediate results. Give silent thanks and continue your day. The seed is working. Repeat this procedure nightly. You need nothing more. Do not alter it. Do not speak of it. The subconscious is silent. It responds secretly. And the day you begin to see external signs, do not attribute it to chance. Recognize that you have sown and are now harvesting. Remember, He gives to His beloved while they sleep. God, or the creative intelligence within you, works while you withdraw. You do not need to monitor the process. You only need to trust that the planted image will act as an invisible magnet, attracting what belongs to it. Do not sleep with your fears, sleep with your vision. Do not replay your mistakes, replay your success. Each night then becomes a day of creation. In the next chapter, you will learn how to release the prayer after formulating it, how to let faith act without mental interference. Because sowing is only part of the process, trusting the process is equally essential. Therein lies true faith. Chapter 5, Subjective Faith, Letting Go and Trusting. The human mind has been trained by society to strive, struggle, and repeat, believing that the more effort you make, the closer you are to obtaining what you desire. This logic is valid in the mechanical realms of physical effort or craft, but not in the functioning of the mental law. In spiritual matters, in the subtle terrain of the subconscious, anxious insistence is not only useless, it is harmful. Where there is anxiety, there is no faith, and where there is no faith, prayer cannot prosper. What most people call faith is merely a desire mixed with fear. They want something, repeat it in prayer, yet their underlying thought is full of doubt, negative expectation, and urgency. They do not pray. They beg. They do not affirm. They grovel. They do not establish truth. They insist on their lack. And unknowingly, they reinforce in their subconscious the very scarcity they wish to overcome. How can one expect health when their prayer affirms disease? How can one attract prosperity if every night they cry from a mindset of scarcity? How can one live in harmony if their prayer is a litany of conflicts? Here appears the fundamental principle of this chapter. Subjective faith is not an exalted emotion, nor blind belief, nor passive waiting. It is an inner magnetism, activated when thought aligns with the certainty that the law is working. It is the conviction that once the mental seed is sown, there is no need to check on it, doubt it, or dig it up with contradictory thoughts. Authentic faith does not require seeing to believe. You believe and therefore you see. You believe and therefore you let go. You believe and therefore you rest. Jesus expressed this clearly. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Mark 11:24. Notice well, he does not say to pray many times, nor to repeat in desperation, nor to beg heaven like a mendicant. He says, ask in the present, believe with certainty, and you will receive naturally. The verb believe here does not refer to an intellectual acceptance of doctrine, but to an inner feeling of certainty. And this feeling cannot be forced. It must be cultivated. How is subjective faith cultivated? First, by letting go of worry. Worry is a form of negative prayer. It is meditating on what you do not want, imagining what you fear, feeling trapped by what you do not wish to happen. Every worried thought is a command directed at the subconscious with the message, this is what I fear, this is what I expect, this is what will probably come. And the subconscious, obedient as it is, begins to construct what you indicate. Therefore, letting go of worry is not a passive act, it is an active act of spiritual trust. It is saying, through your silence, I do not need to control. Infinite intelligence is acting now. Let me illustrate with a case. A businessman from Chicago had lost 3 major contracts in the same month. He was on the brink of financial collapse, gripped by fear, debts, and catastrophic expectations. He came to me asking for a stronger affirmation, in his words. I told him he did not need another affirmation, but to stop praying like a beggar. Daily he had been repeating, please, my God, help me. Do not let me fail. Please. In doing so, he was only imprinting in his mind the image of failure, despair, and defeat. I gave him one single instruction. Stop praying that way. Instead of repeating his anguish, he was to say firmly, morning and night for 3 minutes, the following affirmation. Infinite intelligence acts now. All my ways are guided by divine order. Perfect prosperity flows toward me without obstacles. He was not to plead, explain, or justify, only affirm and trust. 10 days later, one of the lost contracts was unexpectedly reactivated. 3 weeks later, a new investor, a childhood friend, appeared with an offer that covered all his losses. He called me saying, now I understand what it means to let go. Faith is not repetition. It is rest. This testimony illustrates the essential principle. Faith does not require tension. It does not need to manipulate outcomes or calculate timing. Subjective faith is an inner attitude of trust so deep that it does not depend on external evidence to sustain itself. And to cultivate it, you must learn to let go. Letting go does not mean forgetting what you desire nor abandoning your prayer. It is delivering it with such certainty of fulfillment that you no longer concern yourself with producing it. Just like the farmer who sows and does not constantly inspect his field, but waters, trusts, and waits. Now a common question arises. Why should I not repeat the same prayer over and over? Because in the realm of the subconscious, repetition can become an affirmation of doubt. If you have already delivered your mental image with faith, repeating it anxiously indicates that you do not believe it was received. It is like sending the same letter every day to the same recipient. What message does it convey? That you do not trust the first one. Similarly, praying nightly with the same words without peace shows that you have not let go of control. You are trying to force the subconscious to act, and that is impossible. The subconscious responds to law, not to anxiety. The correct way to act is this: formulate your desire once with absolute clarity. Plant the image with conviction, and then enter the attitude of silent gratitude. If you feel the need to repeat something, let it be the expression, thank you, it is already done, or infinite intelligence acts now. These affirmations do not reaffirm the desire, they affirm the certainty of its realization. They point not to what is lacking, but to what is already in motion. That is the difference between a begging prayer and a creative prayer. One pleads, the other establishes. One fears, the other trusts. You may think, what if I do not see it fulfilled yet? How can I trust? I answer, subjective faith does not need to see the result to be certain. It knows the law acts in the invisible before manifesting. It knows the subconscious needs time to process before producing the fruit. It knows that what is sown has already begun to sprout. That is why faith is a magnet. It attracts, not by effort, but by the silent conviction that all is occurring in harmony. It does not need to shout. Its orderly, secure vibration is enough. To conclude this chapter, incorporate a single affirmation into your practice. Short, powerful, direct. Do not say it hurriedly or as a ritual. Breathe it, feel it, make it part of you. Infinite intelligence acts now. Whenever worry arises, repeat it. Whenever doubt approaches, repeat it. Whenever it seems nothing is happening, repeat it and then remain silent. Because faith does not need more words, it only needs space. In the next chapter, you will discover the highest form of prayer of all, the prayer of gratitude. There you will see how thanking for the invisible makes it visible. For in the spiritual realm, we receive before seeing and give thanks without evidence. It is the ultimate proof that you have let go and believed. That is true faith. Chapter 6. The Prayer of Gratitude, the Master Key of the Subconscious. The highest prayer is not the one that begs, nor the one that demands, nor even the one that affirms with precision. The most powerful, the most refined, the purest in vibration is the prayer of gratitude. For those who give thanks before seeing, reveal that they have already believed, and those who have believed have already received. Gratitude is the internal signal that faith has reached its mature state. It is the point at which the soul no longer struggles, no longer asks, no longer waits. It simply recognizes that what was sown has already begun to bear fruit in the invisible. And that recognition, called anticipated gratitude, is the most magnetic vibration that exists. While others beg with anxiety, you give thanks in peace. While others enumerate what they lack, you repeat in your mind, thank you, thank you, thank you, it is already done. This affirmation is not merely a spiritual phrase, it is a formula with direct impact on the subconscious. The subconscious responds not only to words, but to the emotion with which those words are imbued. and gratitude is an emotion that implies certainty. You cannot give thanks for what you do not expect to receive. You cannot sincerely thank for what you doubt you will achieve. Therefore, thanking in advance is the supreme act of faith. Look carefully at the accounts in the Gospels. Before multiplying the loaves, Jesus gave thanks. Before raising Lazarus, he lifted his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you for hearing me." He did not say, "I hope this works. I will do what I can." He gave thanks, because the faith dwelling in one who knows the law does not need to see the result to know that the result is already in motion. He understood that a mind that gives thanks aligns with the energy of fulfillment. And when you pray, you must do the same. Do not wait for evidence to give thanks. Give thanks, and the evidence will appear. When you practice the prayer of gratitude, you are not simulating an emotion you do not feel, nor pretending a certainty you do not possess. You are directing your mind toward the desired outcome with such firmness that you begin to feel it as real. Gratitude is therefore an act of mental programming. It is both a spiritual and scientific tool. By repeating inwardly, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, it is already done," you are re-educating your thought circuits. You are dissolving doubt. You are affirming that you are no longer in lack, but in reception. And the subconscious, upon receiving this signal, activates like a servant that has already received complete instructions. It does not hesitate to debate, it executes. Let me share a real case. A 42-year-old woman had suffered from gastric ulcers for over a decade. She had tried medications, alternative treatments, and multiple diets. Nothing seemed to work permanently. During a lecture, she heard the teaching about the prayer of gratitude and decided to apply it as her sole treatment. For 10 consecutive nights before going to bed, she placed both hands on her stomach. She breathed deeply and said firmly, calmly, and with emotion, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. My stomach is at peace. Thank you for my healing. It is already done." She did not focus on the illness. She did not think about how she would be healed. She only repeated her gratitude as if the healing had already occurred. On the 11th night, she slept deeply without discomfort. The next morning, for the first time in years, she had breakfast without pain. She continued the practice. Within 4 weeks, her digestion was normal. After 8 weeks, a medical checkup confirmed full remission. When she came to share her experience, she said only one thing: "I never asked for health again. I only give thanks." That woman understood that it is not supplication that moves the law, but grateful acceptance. If you wish to apply this technique, do so methodically. Gratitude is not a vague gesture, nor a religious courtesy. It is a scientific tool to be used with clarity. Here is the procedure. Define exactly what you want to achieve: health, abundance, reconciliation, mental clarity. Form a clear image of the fulfilled outcome. Visualize the final scene, as you learned in previous chapters. Associate it with a brief, intense, emotionally alive affirmation of gratitude. For example, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is already done." Or, "I give thanks because divine intelligence has already acted in this. I feel at peace." Repeat the affirmation every morning and night, especially before sleeping, for at least 3 minutes. Feel the emotion of gratitude as if you have already received it. Do not force it. Simply remain in that mental atmosphere. What matters is not overwhelming emotion, but serene certainty. Gratitude is not euphoria, it is silent security. Giving thanks without evidence signals that your mind no longer depends on the visible world to know that the law is acting. That inner independence is the greatest sign of spiritual maturity. You may say, "I do not feel gratitude because I do not see it yet." I answer, you do not see because you do not yet feel gratitude. Cause and effect must be placed in the correct order. Gratitude is the cause, manifestation is the effect. Do not reverse the sequence. Do not say, "When I see, I will give thanks." Say, "I give thanks now, and therefore I will see." Make gratitude a constant atmosphere in your mind, not just a resource for moments of prayer, but a daily attitude. Give thanks for the small and the great, for the evident and the hidden, for what you understand and what you have yet to understand. Give thanks for what was, what is, and what will be. This elevated vibration keeps your mind in harmony with universal good. And where there is harmony, there can be no illness, conflict, or lack. Your central affirmation from today is this: "Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is already done." Repeat this formula when you wake, as you walk, when facing a problem, before answering a difficult email, entering your home, or closing your eyes at night. Transform it into your new mental habit, and you will see how the unfailing law responds. In the next chapter, you will learn how to identify the hidden resistances that interfere with prayer, because often the seed is well planted, but the invisible roots of doubt suffocate it. That too can be transformed. The mind that recognizes its resistance has already taken the first step toward liberation. Chapter 7. Praying for Others. How to conduct spiritual treatments at a distance. When you understand that every mind is one in essence, that all consciousness is connected through the universal substance of the Spirit, you can begin to pray for others with true effectiveness. Prayer is not limited by space or matter. The mind is not contained in the skull, nor is love confined to the body. Just as a radio wave passes through walls, seas, and mountains without losing its frequency, so too does prayer, when elevated with faith and knowledge, reach the recipient without error, regardless of distance. What you feel intensely, what you think clearly, what you affirm with conviction, can act in the life of another person, even if they are 1,000 kilometers away. This is not a poetic idea or a spiritual metaphor. It is a mental law. The key to this law lies in a fundamental principle. The mind is one with all minds. There are no true divisions in the mental field. What you call my mind and your mind are merely localized manifestations of the same universal intelligence, like individual waves emerging from the same ocean. You can project health, peace, prosperity, understanding, and freedom to others if you first establish it clearly in your own mind. What you hold as true within begins to vibrate also in the mental field of the other, not through suggestion or manipulation, but through spiritual resonance. Prayer for another does not work when you attempt to impose a result. It works when you affirm the good without interference, with selfless love, and with absolute respect for the other person's soul. The first requirement to pray for someone else is this: you must not have anxiety or attachment to the outcome. If you pray for another from fear, control, or desperation, you are projecting not peace, but anxiety. And anxiety does not heal. Effective prayer for another requires that your mind be serene, focused, and free of fear. Your function is not to manipulate anyone's will or impose your vision of what is right. Your role is to affirm the presence of infinite intelligence, healing and harmonizing that person. Praying for another is seeing the good within them, even if their actions do not yet reflect it. It is to behold them as God sees them, complete, whole, luminous. A mother in Florida came to me distressed because her 22-year-old son had completely distanced himself from her. He did not answer messages or accept help. He lived in another city, trapped in a destructive relationship and addictions. She cried when she prayed. She asked God to change him, to make him understand, to protect him. But her thoughts were filled with fear, guilt, and frustration. I explained that this kind of prayer could not help. I said, do not project your fear. Project your peace. Do not affirm what you see. Affirm what you wish to see. I asked her to sit in silence each night before bed, close her eyes, and visualize her son sitting before her, calm, smiling, saying, I am well, Mom. Everything is in order. Thank you for your love. I asked her to feel it as real, not to force it, just to affirm it serenely. I also instructed her to repeat this mental affirmation during the day. I see you guided by divine intelligence. The peace of God reigns in your heart. Additionally, I suggested that whenever anxiety arose about him, she recite Psalm 91 mentally as a spiritual shield of protection. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. He will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. She obeyed with devotion, stopped calling or messaging, and ceased crying for him. She began to see him mentally as a complete, free soul, guided by divine light. 3 weeks later, she received a call. Her son, in another city, had decided to leave the destructive relationship and begin a treatment of his own free will. Today, years later, their bond is deep, clean, and renewed, not achieved through control, but through correct prayer. This demonstrates that prayer for another is possible, effective, and necessary, but it demands clear conditions. Release the desire for control. You do not pray for another to do what you want. You pray for divine intelligence to guide them to their highest good. Establish peace within yourself first. A troubled mind cannot project harmony. Visualize with serenity, not desperation. Imagine the other person happy, healthy, and whole. Focus on the solution, not the problem. Affirm the good as already accomplished. Do not say, "I hope they improve." Say, "Thank you. Divine peace is acting within you now." Here is a treatment formula for family harmony that you can apply daily, silently from your home. I see my family surrounded by divine light. Each member is guided, protected, and blessed. Peace reigns in our hearts. Love unites us. What once seemed impossible dissolves into understanding. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is already done. This treatment requires no physical contact, no explicit permission, only pure intention, a disciplined mind, and a heart full of love. If done consistently, you will see the family atmosphere soften. Conversations that seemed impossible will open, old conflicts dissolve, and unexpected encounters occur because you are modifying the collective mental atmosphere by raising your vibrational point. A critical warning. Do not use this prayer to manipulate decisions, influence someone else's feelings, or change another according to your convenience. Doing so violates the spiritual law of free will. The subconscious does not respond to control, it responds to love. If you wish someone to return, pray for their peace. If you wish someone to improve, pray for their well-being, not your desire to have them close. If you wish someone to change, affirm their light, not their error. To pray is to free, not to imprison. Remember, there is no distance in spirit. What you think intensely about another, if sustained with faith and love, reaches their soul as a seed of truth. It may not sprout today or tomorrow, but it has been sown, and the Lord does not forget. In the next chapter, you will learn how to neutralize opposing thoughts that weaken prayer, because it is not enough to pray well once. You must also protect your mental atmosphere throughout the day. This is where true mastery begins. Chapter 8. How to pray in the midst of fear or illness. Praying in calm is simple. Praying when your body is healthy, your bank account is in order, and your relationships are harmonious comes naturally, even for a beginner. But when fear seizes the heart, when the body trembles with alarming symptoms, when the mind threatens to spiral into panic, that is when the true spiritual test begins. It is there, in the midst of inner chaos, that it becomes clear whether prayer has been understood as a living science or merely as occasional comfort. Fear paralyzes reason, distorts perception, and weakens judgment. But it has no power in itself. Fear is a form of inverted faith. It is believing with emotional intensity in what you do not desire. It is visualizing, feeling, and mentally affirming a harm that has not yet manifested. Therefore, the first step in any situation of fear or illness is to remember that fear is a sign the mind has abandoned truth and entered into a negative image. You must not fight fear, analyze it, or argue with it. You must replace it. And this is achieved through constant, directed affirmation, lived with authority. Your body listens to every word you silently pronounce. Every thought charged with emotion is an order to your cells. This is not a superficial exercise. It is a spiritual, biological law. The body obeys the mind. If you see yourself as weak, the body imitates it. If you repeat, "I am lost," your nervous system collapses. If you think, "Nothing will save me," your glands reduce their capacity. Conversely, if you speak to your body with authority, serenity, and firmness, you activate its inner response of balance, defense, and recovery. The same intelligence that sustains your breathing and organizes your functions responds to your decrees when issued with faith. Affirmation is your most immediate tool in times of crisis. You need no external conditions, no special space, ritual, or witnesses. You only need to affirm the higher truth with constancy, even if your surface mind still doubts. You do not need to feel the affirmation as real. Repeat it until it seems so. A fearful mind does not calm through arguments. It is re-educated through repetition. Every time you affirm a spiritual truth, you displace a fearful thought. Two images cannot coexist. Repeat until the internal truth prevails. A commercial airline pilot once wrote to me about an experience that perfectly illustrates this principle. On a flight from Denver to Phoenix, the aircraft entered severe turbulence. The left engine failed. Emergency lights came on. Passengers screamed. The crew lost emotional control. he told me. For a moment I felt everything was lost. Then he remembered an affirmation from one of my books and began repeating it silently, like an inner mantra. God in me is my strength and nothing will harm me. He repeated it continuously, not in panic but with steady rhythm, almost like breathing. He began to feel extraordinary mental clarity, acted with precision, stabilized the plane, communicated with the control tower, and performed an emergency landing without casualties. I did not pray for the worst not to happen, he said. I affirmed that nothing external had power over me, and the situation resolved without tragedy. This was not chance, it was the application of law. When you affirm with spiritual authority, you place yourself above circumstances. You do not deny external facts, but you affirm the higher truth. God in me is my strength, and nothing will harm me. This affirmation does not deny the reality of the body, nor ignore pain. It transcends it. It is like an order given from the control bridge to the entire crew. It changes the direction of inner energy. And when that direction is maintained, fear begins to dissolve like mist before the sun. In cases of illness, apply the same principle. Do not speak of your symptoms as if they own you. Do not say, my arthritis, my migraine, my tumor. Words connect. Every time you name a condition as yours, you seal it with mental ownership. Speak instead from a position of internal authority. Place your hands over the affected area and repeat serenely, this body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Every cell now responds with divine perfection. God in me is my strength, and nothing will harm me. Do it without fear, without urgency, as one waters a plant. Illness is a form of mental-emotional imbalance that has taken physical shape, and just as it was impressed, it can be corrected. Do not be carried away by diagnoses that impose fear. Respect medicine, but do not make it a sentence. You are not the symptom. You are consciousness, and consciousness can restore order. Repeat these affirmations in moments of crisis. God in me is my strength, and nothing will harm me. I am surrounded by light, guided by wisdom, and sustained by love. Nothing external has power over me. My inner world directs my experience. Recite them silently or mentally as if they were your shield. It does not matter if at first you do not feel their power. Persist. The mind needs training, and each affirmation reconstructs your inner atmosphere. Do not seek to feel peace. Affirm peace until it appears. Do not ask for courage. Declare that strength dwells within you. This is how great beings have faced storms, illnesses, threats, and death, not with panic, but with inner mastery. What happens outside is secondary. What happens inside is the cause. And your prayer, in the midst of fear or illness, is the bridge that takes you from chaos to calm, from symptom to balance, from fear to faith. In the next chapter, we will see how to pray for material prosperity without guilt or contradiction, because abundance also responds to law, and you have the right to live free from scarcity if you learn to think with spiritual order. Chapter 9. Prayer and Money. Opening your consciousness to prosperity. Most people pray for money when they have already lost it. They cry out for abundance when they are already trapped in anxiety, debt, or urgency, but they do not understand that money is not a cause. It is an effect. It is not an isolated entity that comes or goes at the whim of an uncertain fate. It is a form of spiritual energy that responds, like everything else in creation, to the mental vibration of the individual. When you understand this clearly, you also understand that praying for prosperity is not an act of begging from an external power, but a conscious activation of an internal law. Money is a concrete expression of exchange, service, and circulation. It is condensed energy taking the form of paper, metal, bank figures, or invisible transfers. It has no will of its own, yet it responds to the mental direction impressed upon it. And that direction is established through your belief system, your mental images, your emotions associated with value, and the way you speak, think, and pray regarding provision. When within you resides the idea that money is dirty, difficult, unattainable, or scarce, every prayer you offer for prosperity is contaminated by those subconscious roots. It is not enough to ask for more money if you simultaneously reject it emotionally. Visualizing wealth while feeling guilty for desiring it is ineffective. The subconscious is exact. It does not hear your superficial words. It hears your dominant vibration. Therefore, the first step in praying for prosperity is to purify your concept of money. You must understand that money is spiritual, not in itself, but by its origin. Every visible form comes from the mind. And if God, the creative intelligence, is the source of all provision, then money, as a manifestation of value and circulation, is a channel of that source. The apostle did not lie when he said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Psalm 23:1. This phrase is not mere poetic comfort. It is a formula of power. If God, the creative mental law, guides your path, then lack is an error of perception, not an objective truth. Lack is not divine punishment. It is a sign of a thought disconnected from the source. You do not need to change the world. You need to change the image you hold about the flow of provision. Let me share the case of a merchant who went bankrupt in full maturity. He had managed a chain of textile stores for 20 years. Due to poor decisions, unexpected competition, and accumulated debts, he ended up closing his last branch with severe losses. He lost confidence, prestige, and purpose. He came to me saying, "I have prayed for God to get me out of this, but nothing changes." I asked him how he prayed. He said, "I ask for money to return, for paths to open, for God not to abandon me." I replied, "That is not prayer, it is verbalized anxiety. You are praying from lack, not from the source. You are affirming loss, not activating provision." I taught him a technique that transformed his consciousness, the mental check. Every night, he would close his eyes and visualize a check in his name, issued from a clear, dignified source of income. The amount had to be specific, not fantastical. He would see the figure, smell the paper, feel the fresh ink, touch the signature. While holding this image, he silently repeated, "Thank you, Father, because this income is already on its way. Nothing is lacking. The divine law sustains me." He was also instructed to stop speaking about bankruptcy, avoid recounting his failures, and begin daily affirmations. "I am a channel of abundance. Money flows to me constantly and harmoniously." Within 6 weeks, a former client invited him to become a partner in a new digital venture. It was not luck. It was commercial opportunity. By 4 months, he had regained his financial capacity. Within 2 years, his new company doubled the income he had previously earned. When I met him again, he said, "I never pray asking anymore. I only affirm and receive." This story shows how to unlock provision. Money does not come from people, your job, or a bank. It comes from your consciousness. People, companies, contracts, and circumstances are merely channels. The source is mental. Prayer for prosperity only works when you stop seeking outside what can only be activated within. To apply this teaching, follow this daily practice. Visualize your prosperity as present, not in the future, not as a possibility, but as a current fact. Use the mental check technique. Be specific with the amount, but release control over how it comes. Your role is to affirm the source, not manage the channel. Repeat affirmations with certainty. Effective examples. Money is divine energy circulating freely in my life. Nothing I need is lacking. Everything I require arrives at the right time. I am a magnet for legitimate wealth. Perfect prosperity flows to me now. Cut all language of scarcity. Do not say, "I can't, it's difficult, I'm strapped." These affirm lack. Say instead, "I am in a process of expansion. Everything is resolving in divine order." Give gratitude in advance. Every time you see a sum of money, large or small, repeat, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is already done." Remember, anxiety blocks, certainty opens. Do not visualize out of obligation. Do not repeat out of fear. Feel it as an inner celebration. Rejoice in the invisible wealth already forming. Faith does not need evidence to begin gratitude. Prayer for money is legitimate. It is neither superficial nor materialistic. The master multiplied loaves, found coins in fish, turned water into wine, not to satisfy ego, but to show that provision is natural when living in alignment with law. You were not created for misery. You were created to serve, grow, and multiply. Money is one of the ways life expresses itself in abundance. In the next chapter, you will learn how to detect invisible self-sabotages that prevent prayer from bearing fruit. Because it is not always the lack of effort that blocks your results, but the internal contradiction that fears what your words affirm. And that too can be healed. Chapter 10. Forgiveness as silent prayer that liberates. There are invisible forces more powerful than the clearest words. Among them, forgiveness holds a central place because where resentment dwells, prayer cannot flourish. Where the soul is bound by old grievances, creative energy does not flow freely, and not because a deity is offended or withholds blessing, but because consciousness, the fertile ground where your affirmations are sown, becomes barren when hardened by unforgiveness. Most people who pray diligently, visualize clearly, and repeat affirmations consistently do not understand why their results are delayed. They do not suspect that the obstacle is not in the method of prayer, but in the overall vibration of their mind. Resentment, even when justified by human reasons, is a vibration of closure, contraction, and emotional defense that blocks spiritual reception. Praying from resentment is like sowing seeds in arid soil. You can scatter valuable seeds, but the ground lacks the vitality to germinate. Forgiveness is not a moralistic act, nor a religious duty. It is a law of energetic liberation. By forgiving, you are not doing a favor for another. You are restoring the flow of life within yourself. You are releasing a burden that consumes your mental strength. You are untying knots that bind your energy to past events. And since prayer operates only in the present, any thought anchored in the past weakens its power. You cannot pray effectively for prosperity if in your heart you harbor hatred towards someone who defrauded you. You cannot affirm health if your heart holds resentment towards someone who abandoned you. The subconscious does not separate your issues. It absorbs your overall vibration. When Jesus taught how to pray, he included a revealing clause: "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." It was not a pious request, but a formula of correspondence. What you withhold from others, you withhold from yourself. What you condemn in another, you activate within yourself, not as punishment, but by the law of mental reflection. If you want your prayer to function freely, you must examine your consciousness and ask, whom have I not yet released? What situation do I continue to give negative power to? I once met a woman who suffered from rheumatoid arthritis for more than 15 years. She had tried medical treatments with no lasting results. She told me, "I pray every day to heal, but nothing changes." I asked if there was anyone she had not forgiven. After a brief silence, she burst into tears. Her sister had betrayed her over a family inheritance. She had never spoken to her again. I explained that forgiveness was not a concession to her sister, but a liberation for herself. Her body was expressing, through pain, the emotional rigidity of an unforgiven heart. I proposed a specific treatment. Each night she would visualize her sister standing before her, both enveloped in golden light, and repeat internally, "I release you mentally and wish you the best. You are free and I am free. Thank you, thank you, thank you." She was not to analyze or justify the act, only release the image with serenity and repetition. Additionally, she was to pray for her own health, saying, "The peace of God flows through every joint. My body is free because my soul is free." Within 6 weeks, her pain began to decrease. After 3 months, her inflammatory markers dropped drastically. The doctor could not understand how the disease had remitted without new medication, but she did. The energy she had previously used to maintain conflict was now available for healing. It was not magic. It was law. The technique of forgiveness in prayer is simple, but it requires spiritual will. It is not about forgetting the offense, but withdrawing the mental energy that sustains it. You do not need external reconciliation, though it may occur. What matters is inner liberation. Here is the complete procedure. Identify whom you need to forgive. Do not ignore or minimize. Be honest with yourself. Visualize the person for a few minutes, surrounded by light, not from judgment, but from the intention of liberation. Repeat softly or mentally, "I release you mentally and wish you the best. Peace be with you. Peace is within me. I no longer hold this image. Everything is in the hands of divine intelligence." Do this for 21 consecutive days. Do not worry if you do not feel it at first. Consistency modifies the emotional circuit. Remember, forgiveness is a process, not an instant act. But each day you practice it, you release an energetic bond. You are clearing your mental field. You are preparing fertile ground where prayer can germinate without obstacles. A mind that has forgiven radiates a frequency that cannot be ignored. Circumstances soften, opportunities arrive, health returns, not by chance, but because consciousness has returned to its natural state of openness. Make forgiveness your silent daily prayer. Do not wait for the other to change or for the past to be altered. Forgive because you choose to be free. No prayer can flourish in a soul burdened with resentment. And because love, like sunlight, does not impose itself yet transforms everything it touches. In the next chapter, you will learn how to use prayer as a practical guide for decisions, doubts, and uncertain paths. Prayer is not only a bridge to future good, it is also a compass for the present. And if you learn to listen to its guidance, you will no longer walk blindly. Chapter 11. How to use the Psalms as mental formulas of power. The Book of Psalms, far from being merely a collection of religious poems or liturgical chants, is a codified compilation of mental formulas, symbolic images, and verbal vibrations that, when used correctly, have the power to transform consciousness and activate invisible responses in the subconscious. Each psalm contains within its language a precise mental structure, a specific emotional vibration, and a spiritual direction that, when absorbed with faith and repeated with understanding, produces concrete effects in the life of the one who prays. The most common mistake made by those approaching the Psalms is reading them as if they were ancient history, words from another time, or the supplications of a distant people. Approached this way, they are emptied of power. But those who understand that each phrase is written in symbolic code, not directed at a distant god but at the creative reservoir of the subconscious, open a mental door through which spiritual energy begins to flow. The language of the Psalms is metaphorical because the subconscious mind responds more deeply to images than to abstract concepts. That is why you find expressions such as, "My cup overflows, 1,000 may fall by my side. The Lord is my rock. He will cover you with his feathers." These are not literal expressions, but mental representations of inner states. When you declare with conviction, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," you are planting an image in your subconscious of guidance, provision, and safe direction. It is not a supplication, it is a vibratory affirmation. And that vibration begins to shape your external experience accordingly. For a psalm to function as a mental treatment, simply reading it is not enough. You must pray it. And to pray does not mean to recite mechanically, but to internalize each phrase as if it were a living affirmation. Read slowly with awareness, allowing each word to penetrate your mind like a seed. A psalm is not a poem admired for its beauty. It is a formula that acts through meditative repetition. Each psalm has its field of application. Some open consciousness to prosperity, others affirm spiritual protection, some dissolve fear or restore inner peace, and others reprogram physical health. The key is to use them with a clear purpose, not as general reading but as a precise tool, just as a physician selects the correct remedy according to the symptom. Here are some key psalms, their mental interpretations, and correct methods of use. Psalm 1 for guidance, success, and correct decisions. He shall be like a tree planted by streams of water, yielding its fruit in season, and its leaf shall not wither. This psalm affirms stability, steady growth, and connection to the source, ideal for those who feel scattered or indecisive. Use as an affirmation. I'm like a tree by the waters. Everything I do prospers in divine order. Thank you, Father. Psalm 23 for provision and mental rest. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. This psalm reprograms the consciousness of lack, establishing an image of inner guidance, assured provision, and deep peace. Read slowly each morning as an affirmation of spiritual sufficiency. My mind follows the voice of the inner shepherd. I lack nothing. All is in perfect order. Psalm 27, to eliminate fear and strengthen inner security. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Ideal in moments of uncertainty, threat, or panic. Instills certainty of protection and clear vision. Repeat aloud. God in me is my light. I see with clarity. I fear nothing and no one. Psalm 91, for comprehensive protection against all forms of danger. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. You shall not fear the terror of the night. One of the most powerful psalms is a mental shield. Use for yourself or to mentally cover a loved one, especially children or those in risk situations. Form a brief derivative. 1,000 may fall by my side, but it will not touch me. I am surrounded by light. I am at peace. Psalm 121, for faith in divine guidance. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. This psalm retrains the mind to stop relying on human solutions and to trust the inner source. Recommended when starting new projects. Divine intelligence guides my steps. Nothing is hidden from me. I walk in the right direction. To transform the reading of psalms into true mental prayer, follow this daily exercise. Choose a psalm according to your current need. Read it slowly, aloud, or mentally. Pause between phrases and repeat those that resonate. Translate mentally each phrase into the present language of your life. What does the rod and staff comfort me mean to you? What does you anoint my head with oil represent? Close with a derived affirmation in the present tense. For example, my cup overflows, I am abundant now. Do this before sleep. The subconscious is most receptive on the border of sleep. Reading a psalm as a nightly treatment plants a pure image just before entering the inner workshop where your future experiences are forged. You do not need to understand all theological meanings. You need to feel the image as real. If, when pronouncing a phrase of the psalm, you feel peace, expansion, or relief, that phrase is working in you. Repeat, memorize, and allow the words to accompany you during the day, to rise to your consciousness when fear attempts to enter, activating as a reflex of security when the external world challenges you. Remember, each psalm is a tool for mental reprogramming in spiritual language. It is not a distant prayer. It is a living formula meant to be prayed, not just read. In the next chapter, you will learn the art of the final stage of all effective prayer, the definitive release, the moment when you no longer repeat or visualize, but simply live with absolute inner certainty. There comes a point on the path where you stop seeking signs and simply walk in peace. That point is the seal of fulfillment. Chapter 12. Your life as a continuous prayer. Your entire existence is prayer. Not the formal prayer you repeat with your lips, nor the one you recite in moments of need, not even the ritualized prayer of empty formulas. I'm referring to true prayer, your constant thought, what you think of yourself, of the world, of others, of the future, that inner current that accompanies you while you work, speak, or walk. That subtle, persistent vibration which, even when unspoken, is constantly shaping your atmosphere, your body, and your destiny. Prayer does not begin when you close your eyes. Prayer is your mental life. Every image you tolerate, every judgment you feed, every assumption you embrace is a form of prayer. If you spend the day visualizing problems, fearing the future, and repeating phrases of defeat, you are praying incessantly for what you do not want. If your inner dialogue is full of complaints, suspicion, and resentment, that is your constant prayer, and the subconscious, faithful servant will begin to produce the conditions you are dictating. It is vital to understand this principle. Every life is a continuous prayer, but only those who do it consciously become masters of their destiny. Living in a prayerful state does not mean becoming a fanatic or filling your day with religious acts. It means maintaining a high, directed, conscious, and serene awareness, like a helmsman steering a ship. It means being in the world but not a victim of it. It implies responding with peace to conflict, projecting well-being even in uncertainty, and directing your energy without distraction. You do not need to lock yourself in a temple. Your work is prayer. Your silence is prayer. The way you treat others is a silent affirmation that returns multiplied. It is not about constantly repeating phrases, but about sustaining a vibratory direction. Like a musician who keeps their ear tuned even in rest, like a gardener who knows the earth is alive even in winter. That is the unceasing prayer, a consciousness oriented toward good, connected to the source, without dramatics or demands. To help you establish this prayerful awareness in a practical, natural way, I propose a daily plan. Simple but profound. It does not require rigid schedules or great effort, only inner commitment. Morning, upon waking, before rising, before contact with the outside world, set the tone of your day. Repeat with conviction. This is a blessed day. Infinite intelligence guides me. Everything I do prospers. I give thanks for everything. All is prayer. Visualize your day unfolding harmoniously. See situations resolving, people smiling, your body light, your mind at peace. This morning image is like planting fertile ground. Midday, Before meals or during a pause, do not allow the external rhythm to sweep you away. Take 3 minutes to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and affirm, I am at peace. The divine law acts now in every area of my life. I lack nothing. Everything cooperates for my good. You can do this quietly at work, unnoticed. The posture is irrelevant, the inner direction matters. You reaffirm your center, recalibrate your mental atmosphere. Evening before sleep. This is the most crucial moment. The subconscious enters a receptive state. Everything you think just before sleep is deeply recorded. Avoid ending the day with news, complaints, or worries. Close your eyes, visualize the day with gratitude. Even if there were errors or challenges, seek the lesson. Give thanks, then repeat, thank you, thank you, thank you, all is in order. I release this day into the hands of divine wisdom. Tomorrow will be even better. You may add a specific affirmation according to your focus, health, peace, relationships, income, but always from certainty, not lack. If you maintain this plan for 21 consecutive days, you will notice a profound change in your overall vibration. If you maintain it for 90 days, you will begin to experience prayer as a permanent state, not an isolated act. You will no longer ask, you will manifest. You will no longer doubt, you will live with certainty. You will no longer react, you will create. Remember, your life is not a collection of separate events. It is a stream of consciousness. Every thought you sustain is a silent word rising to the universal field of mind. No thought is lost. All is recorded, all returns. All manifests according to the vibratory quality you emit. Therefore, care for your thought as you care for your food. Choose your images as you choose your friends. Do not allow any idea to dwell in you. Your mind is a temple. Your emotion is incense. Your attention is an offering. Your entire life is prayer. We have reached the end of this 12-stage journey. But prayer never ends, because it is not a method. It is a way of living. You are now responsible for maintaining this state, teaching by example, helping without imposing, affirming good even when the world denies it. You have received tools, formulas, testimonies, and eternal truths. Now apply them, with faith, with love, with constancy. And as you do, repeat this affirmation that captures the spirit of this entire book. I give thanks for everything. All is prayer. My life is light, peace, and provision. I am guided, protected, and blessed, and I share my good with all beings. Peace for my mind, health for my body, abundance for my path, love for my soul. Amen.